All right, everyone. Welcome to the Angry Asian Uncle podcast. I am your host, Reynold, and my co-host.
Hey there, guys. It's Vic.
All right, we have a special guest with us today. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Chris Grimbalis, and I am a certified sex addiction recovery coach.
Wow.
Oh,
I can tell this is
wow.
going to be good.
Right? Well, okay. So I guess should we start by saying, I guess we understand addiction. So how does that work? Or should we start with the root of all? What is the quote unquote the issue that
Well,
you're trying to help people with?
so I deal with men
Mhm.
who are engaged in problematic, unwanted, compulsive sexual behavior.
Oh,
Everything from pornography to affairs, and trying to help them A, find freedom, and then B, develop a life in recovery without the addictive behavior.
Oh,
And
okay.
there's a whole neurology to it, but it's crazy. And I only know because frankly been there, done that.
I see.
I
Okay.
see.
So how do you, yeah. So interesting. Um, you know, it's not a very I guess it's maybe more common than we think, but usually we think about like alcohol addiction, drug addiction, um, sort of sex addiction. We sort of brush it under the table
Yeah, it's
because,
not it's not every time you hear somebody talk about having sex addiction, right? It's usually
right.
alcohol or drug addiction.
Correct. And
Yes.
it's a different, it's a different, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a different type of addiction.
Hmm.
I see.
So
Okay.
if a guy if a guy is engaged in sexually addictive behavior,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it is, for lack of a better term, spiritual warfare, and he is under attack. So
Hmm.
if a guy's a drug addict, if a guy's an alcohol addict, and that stuff destroys the body, it does a major number on the body. He can go to some place and he can get dried out, and over time his body will begin to heal.
Hmm.
With sex addiction, you're dealing with the brain, which is the greatest computer known to mankind. Okay.
Right.
And once you see that video, once you engage in that behavior, it is forever sealed in the hard drive of your brain.
Hmm.
And so overcoming it is a whole different animal than overcoming some sort of a physical addiction.
I see.
Somebody once described it this way: you reach a point in the road, and something off to the side gets your attention, and you can
Mhm.
either keep going down the pathway that is clear, or you can go off to the side and visit that what got your attention.
Hmm.
And then the next day, you reach that same crossroad, and you know what? That thing is still there, and you go over to what got your attention. And eventually, that second pathway, which wasn't meant to be there, is now clearer and less overgrown than the original pathway that you were on.
Hmm. Right.
And
Makes
you
sense.
keep
Yeah.
going back to it, and you keep going back to it, and it doesn't seem like you can stop.
Hmm.
It's crazy, and
Right.
it becomes compulsive.
Hmm.
We see.
And then with that, you know that's the path that you're not supposed to be taking,
Right.
but you're taking it. So
Hmm.
with that comes secrecy, shame, the realization that you're engaging in what the Bible would call sinful behavior,
Hmm.
and you don't know how to get out of it, because in order to get out of it, you have to figure out how to come clean.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And burying those neural pathways does not happen on its own.
Yes, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's really a challenge. And it's not just men. There are women who have these kind of issues too. I deal exclusively with men. Frankly, it came within a hair's breadth of destroying my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, for the sake of my marriage, and because I don't want to deal with it anymore, it could present challenges staying in my own recovery. I'm not going to deal with women. I only deal with men.
Mm-hmm.
So it's healthy for me that way.
Yes.
Well, it's complicated
Just
enough as it is, right? To just
It
deal
is
with men. Yeah.
complicated is a good
enough.
word.
Yeah.
Right.
I was church planner and pastor for decades, and Bible colleges do not have classes in teaching guys how to help other guys out of sexual addiction.
I
Those
was just
classes
thinking that,
don't
right?
exist
It
in Bible
seems
Yeah.
college.
it seems like it's
It's all
not
swept out
talked about
the rug.
enough, right? Yeah. And secondly, it's like I think the help available for sex addiction seems a little bit harder to find than the usual addictions.
Yeah.
So there are all sorts of programs out there, which are, if you will, held in churches. Celebrate Recovery, Reformers Unanimous, and there are
Mm-hmm.
others.
Mm-hmm.
And, a guy can go into one of those meetings and say, "Oh, I've been free from my drugs for 90 days." And everybody stands up and applauds. And, "Oh, I've been free from my alcohol for 6 months. Yay,
Mm-hmm.
yay. Oh, I quit cigarettes a month ago. I'm 30 days without a cigarette. Yay, that's great. Well, I've been free from my sex addiction for 2 months," and the room goes silent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like,
People don't know how to react to that, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
there are free programs. I spent
Mhm.
a year in Sex Addicts Anonymous,
Mm-hmm.
okay, which 12-step programs, and there are good 12-step programs.
Right.
What and I would encourage that. And along with that, I believe it takes a guided, structured program that
Mm-hmm.
deals with where that man is at to
Mm-hmm.
facilitate a change in mindset. Because if the mindset's not there, I don't care what he does, he's not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A belief that transformation and healing is possible,
Mm-hmm.
and a path for that guy to find the liberty that
Mm-hmm.
can be there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It seems very structured. Yes.
Yes.
And it took me a long time to put together the program. I didn't make all this stuff up. I actually went back to school and
Mm-hmm.
got
Mm-hmm.
training. That's thus my certified sex addiction recovery
Mm-hmm.
coach. And I want to deal with men. I want to help
Yeah.
men.
Chris,
I
why do you
want to
why
help
do you
men
think
do this.
why do you think that sex addiction seems to be something that's not talked about as often as the other addictions? Why is that? Is there a taboo surrounding,
Shame. Oh yeah, shame.
yeah,
The big
the
thing.
Oh,
The big
sure.
subject,
thing is the
right?
Yeah.
shame. The shame is, there comes a point where a guy has to take responsibility for his actions. We would
Mm-hmm.
use the phrase, "he's got to man up." Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's truth to that. But before the guy can man up, he's got to break through that barrier of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Sex addiction it keeps people, the secrecy and the hiding and the
Mm-hmm.
shame, because most guys know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I heard this phrase and I agree with it wholeheartedly. Pornography is virtual adultery.
Oh, okay.
You're cheating on your wife or on your partner with a pixelated image.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's having a devastating consequences. Poor kids are being raised on pornography. The average age of exposure in today's world is between the ages of 10 and 12.
Wow. Okay.
And I
Okay.
get that. My dad bought me a subscription to Playboy when I
Mm.
was for Christmas when I was 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
I get
That's
that.
nice. Okay.
Okay. Um, and it doesn't get any easier with the
Hmm.
advent of smartphones.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
for sure. Yeah.
my wife and I were on Facebook together this morning, and we opened the Facebook page, and there was an ad off to the side that my wife covered with her hand
Hmm.
because it was an image I didn't need to see. And
Right.
I didn't say to her, "What are you doing?" I knew what she was doing.
Right.
Okay. And when most guys would say, "Get your hand out of the," and it gets so entrenched, even though
Hmm.
they know it's really not in their best interest,
Hmm.
because of the secrecy gets a hold on them, the shame gets a hold on them,
Hmm.
and the first step is being able to deal with that shame. The
Interesting. Right.
second,
Right. Right.
and it's the shame
Hmm.
that keeps you trapped in your secrecy, because if you open up, you say to your wife, "Honey, I'm addicted to pornography and I'm having this relationship with this woman on OnlyFans or fans only,
Hmm.
whatever it is. I'm not sure."
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's your now you've just blown your wife out of the water.
Hmm.
Okay. And yeah, there is a time to come clean with your wife, but that might not be the best time to do that.
Right.
Yes, you're going to have to do that,
Yeah.
but you've got to be able to get a handle on it first.
Right.
I see.
Right.
They
Well,
actually have whole businesses. I kid you not, whole businesses that deal specifically with disclosure to the wife.
Mm.
interesting. I
Okay.
did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, back to
So
the beginning of it. What deems it to be a addiction? Because some people, like, when it comes to, I only reference alcohol because we know those better. Like, people say, yeah, yeah, I have a beer, well, once or twice, a week, or maybe even just like once a day. People don't say, oh, that's not that's okay, that's not an addiction, right? you know so what is it? So in translating it to like
so
pornography, like, okay, if I look at like one video, one picture a day, that is that addiction? Or
a
how
guy
do we categorize that? Yeah.
a guy has an affair.
Mhm.
He's on a business trip. He does a one night stand. Okay.
Hmm.
Goes home. It never happens again. That's a mistake.
Hmm.
Okay.
A guy goes on a business trip. He has an affair. Next time he's on a business trip, he's looking for that same thing and then looking for
Oh,
that
okay.
same thing. It becomes compulsive
Hmm.
behavior.
Okay.
I
A
see.
guy stumbles on a porn site. That's great.
Mhm.
Okay. Shut it down. You're done.
Hmm.
Right.
But when a guy keeps going back to it time and time again, now it
Hmm.
becomes a compulsive behavior, and you're walking down that path that you were never intended to walk down.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a point where now you can't tell anybody. Now you're stuck. Now you're living in secret
I
and
see.
you don't know what to do about it. I always
Right.
start, I, I always start with this. My name is Chris Grimbalis. It's
Mhm.
not a title, it's not a platform, and I need you to hear this without flinching. I've had two significant battles with pornography over the years.
Hmm.
I crossed a line I never believed I would cross.
Hmm.
I had an affair with a woman who's not my wife.
Hmm.
There's no minimizing that. There's no
Hmm.
spiritualizing it. There's no excusing it.
Hmm.
I'm a sex addict. And the
Hmm.
consequences were not theoretical. They were devastating. My
Hmm.
wife was shattered. My
Right.
children were wounded in ways I can't undo. I lost
Mhm.
my job. I lost my credibility. I
Mhm.
lost the illusion that I was somehow different from other men
Mhm.
who fall.
Mhm.
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 Okay. And for the guy who's saying, well, that would never be me. Yeah, that was me.
Mhm.
For the guy who says, I still have control. Yeah, so did I.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, as long as no one knows, it's not that serious.
Mhm.
I was you.
Right,
I
right,
see.
right.
I was you. And it's making a difference physically. So the biggest bracket for pornography, not the only bracket for pornography, but the
Mhm.
largest
Mhm.
is ages 18 to 25.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
It's no coincidence that that is also the fastest growing segment of men suffering from erectile dysfunction because they
Okay.
get so wrapped up with the virtual aspect of it, they don't know how to have
Mhm.
a relationship. They don't know how to have a real relationship with a woman.
I see, I
That's like
see.
normal
Okay.
social media now, right? You're so wrapped
Right.
up in a social world, you don't know how to interact in a real world.
Very
Mhm.
much so. You know, you can have a million friends on Facebook,
Hmm.
but if you have a devastating loss, a fire burns your home.
Hmm.
Who's going to be there to are your million friends on Facebook going to come put you up in a hotel and house you and your family? No.
Probably not.
Mhm.
Okay. Are they going to bring you meals while your house is being rebuilt?
Mhm.
No.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Right.
I like how
Uh,
Chris puts it too. Like it is a spiritual warfare in a way. I like the way you say that because if you think about it, it's so insidious, isn't it? Pornography and adultery, because it usually starts out instead of like, oh, well, I stumbled upon this thing, and I guess no harm in clicking it, taking a look. But then from there, it's a slippery slope, and then you just click one video, and then that leads to another, and that leads to another, and then you go on a business trip, and you're thinking like, well, if I've seen this happen on a video, why not try to see if it can happen in real life? And then it cascades into each other, and before you know it, you're doing all sorts of things that you wouldn't have otherwise done, and then
Exactly.
you don't feel good though at the end of it because it's like the shame
No.
comes in, right? And this is what a lot of people don't seem to understand is that maybe for some men they genuinely don't feel any shame, but I think for most men, especially if you're in a loving relationship, right, Chris, you feel so bad about it afterwards. You there's no excusing it, but then now that you've fallen into the pattern, it's very hard to get yourself out of it without some kind of intervention or some kind of outside help. And it is a spiritual warfare in a sense that I think it needs a lot of guidance from people who genuinely care about you and also prayer. And just like it goes back to knowing yourself as a person and knowing where you stand, but also trying to find a way out of that pit that you've dug for yourself is very, very tricky, right?
It is
yeah.
you were right when you said it's a cycle. It begins with ritual.
Yeah.
This is what I did. I walked down that path. That's the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Then it began then you reach the point where okay, now you're looking to engage. Then you engage. Then there's despair because you engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cycle starts over again.
Right, right.
And it begins with secrecy. It feeds on stress. It feeds on isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it there's that quiet decision to try and cope instead of confront.
Right.
It grows in silence. It feeds on shame, and it lies to you until the damage is no longer
Right,
containable.
right. Yeah, yeah.
This is a moral issue, but it's not about morality or sin alone. It's
Mm-hmm.
about survival. It's about your
Right,
marriage. It's about your family. It's about your integrity. It's about
right.
your future. And the most dangerous myth that men believe is this: I can fix it on my own.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And over my years as a pastor, you see guys and they walk up with their whiskey bottle and they leave it on the altar and they say, I'm never going to drink again. And that's great. And that's what happens. Are there cigarettes or there drugs? I'm going to do
Mm-hmm,
that. And it never happens. Okay.
mm-hmm,
God doesn't work that way with this.
mm-hmm.
God says there's a battle to be fought and it needs to be confronted.
Right, right.
And
And it's a
everywhere
constant
you,
vigilance
yeah,
too, right, Chris? It's a constant vigilance. It's not like, oh, once you've mastered one part of it, that it never comes back and tempts you again. Like
oh
it's a
no,
constant thing,
yeah,
right?
especially in today's economy.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you play a game on your phone. Okay. Well, I'm not going to advertise a specific game, but there's a game I play, and sometimes the ads come up,
Hmm.
and I put my phone down and walk away because the average time of an ad is 120 seconds on this game, and
Hmm.
I'll come back 2 minutes later and pick up the game again.
Right, right.
Because I can't tell you what the ads are going to bring up.
Hmm. Right,
And yeah, so it's right in your face.
right. It's so rampant. And also,
And
like, I think it's just available, too readily available everywhere. It's on your
Right.
screens, it's on your phones, it's billboards, it's magazines, it's everywhere you look. There's like a
Everywhere.
over sexualized images
Yeah.
because that's what
Social
sells,
media.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I think that the constant trigger, right? The constant trigger in your mind, especially if you've already, if you're a recovering sex addict, that constant trigger doesn't help you. And I think you physically putting down your phone and walking away, it sounds like a smart move, actually.
Mhm.
it is my wife. I tell you this, my wife appreciates it.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And that being said, uh, it does require vigilance.
Yeah.
I will live in recovery for the rest of my days.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Because, and because it requires vigilance, I have a group of men to whom I'm accountable.
Right, right. A support group,
Um,
right? Yeah.
I put Covenant Eyes on my phone and my
Hmm.
computer. Okay.
Hmm.
So I do things in order to protect myself. Now,
Right.
Mm.
I don't have the desire anymore. I would
Hmm.
say I'm not, this doesn't trip my trigger anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's not to say that something won't trip my trigger in the future. And
Right,
I will protect myself and I will protect my marriage
right, right,
Right.
and I will protect my relationship with my children,
right,
even though they're all grown and out of the house with kids of their own. Okay.
right, right,
I'm going to protect those relationships. And the decision to live in recovery for the rest of my life is a decision to protect my marriage and my kids.
right. Because I think, for a marriage, pornography and sex addiction is so devastating because real life doesn't work the same as all these videos, right? All these pornography, like it never lives up to you know
No,
what you see on the screen, right? And then you have
no.
these unrealistic expectations after you watch these things, and you're thinking like, oh yeah, all women must behave like that, or like all men must behave like that, and
Mhm.
then you set yourself up to failure because like normal people just they're not like that. They're not wired that way. But then you mentioned erectile dysfunction a while ago. I think I've read that statistic somewhere as well because like suddenly these young men are like, well, how come real life sex isn't what I see on screen? And then they just lose interest, right? They just don't
Yeah.
feel like they're they don't feel any urge at all when it comes to dealing with real people. So it's so
And
devastating, right?
unless they marry a porn star, their sex is not going to be like that because
Right.
real women don't behave that way.
Exactly. Right.
Well,
Yes.
And
even porn stars, I read, you know, not that I advertising anything. Porn stars are just regular people when they're outside of the video recording,
Like
whatever
work is
recording.
work, right,
They're,
Reynold?
yeah,
Yeah.
your work is
Yeah.
work. You know,
yeah,
when they're when they're outside of work, in the say with their boyfriend or husband, they're just regular people. They're not screaming, yelling, and telling
Right.
them stuff like that. So
But
yeah.
most men don't know that, especially young men, right?
yeah,
They can't
So,
tell the difference.
you know, what? You're going to go see your wife and say, hey, I want you to behave like that woman on the video. That's going to go over like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
You might as well tie on some men overshoes and jump in the lake as far as your relationship's
Right.
concerned.
Right.
hmm
Okay. Because you
yeah,
just screwed your relationship.
hmm
Yeah. And I think people underestimate just how much damage these things can cause because like in my own life, because my father and my mother, they divorced when I was very young, because I think my father, he has a lot of affairs, and he's a classic case, if there ever was one, of a sex addict, I think. And then I think people don't understand, because if they don't go through the same thing, like us, the children, we're totally devastated by the broken up family. And there's so many repercussions because of that. Like growing up in a broken household, you just never feel secure because you don't have the complete nuclear family intact. And it affects your confidence, it affects your ability to relate to the world, to relate to people. um, you have to find yourself on top of, dealing with all the different challenges that come with life, right? And I think all of that started because of the breakdown of the nuclear family. And that started because, my father basically just, he was a sex addict. And I think, to comment a little bit about the Asian aspect of it, he wasn't alone. I think his generation of men growing up in this part of the world, many of them, would go out there and have a good time and take on a mistress. And it's very common. Like, people would have two to three different mistresses. They would, when they go out on business trips, they would fool around. And it was just part of the culture. But I think it created a whole generation of kids. Now that we're growing up, we look back and we realize that yes, they raised us in the sense that they made sure we had food on the table and we got to go to school, but they never really took the time to nurture our hearts. And, we have to heal ourselves first, then learn to love ourselves. And then in turn, what we find ourselves doing is we're trying to give our children that time and attention that we never got from our parents. Right, Chris? Does that make any sense?
It absolutely makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And so it is devastating on the children. It was rough on my kids and my kids when
Mhm.
I fessed up and came clean. Um, it was rough on my kids, and my kids were all growing and out of the house.
Mm.
Um, so I to when it happens with younger children, it's the damage control is on on a magnitude level, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and the wife goes through the you're saying to your wife, you are not enough for me.
Oh, they're definitely devastated. They're hurt
Right.
beyond.
And the
Yeah.
common term is betrayal trauma. The wife is
Right. Right.
undergoing betrayal trauma.
Yeah. And I don't think they really heal from that completely. Right.
3 to 5 years, just 3 to 5 years is the time frame that they say it will take a woman to stabilize after her
Mm.
husband comes clean.
All right. Okay.
After her husband gets clean, they say it'll take the wife 3 to 5 years to stabilize.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because that brain is the supercomputer,
Mm.
there's no telling. It could be 10 years down the road, and your
Right.
wife sees a billboard and goes into a trigger mode.
Mm.
Okay. And part of this is learning to recognize your own triggers, but also being prepared to deal with your wife's triggers. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there. I don't deal with that aspect of it. I am looking to get men out of the addictive behavior into a life of recovery, helping them understand the science behind it.
Mm.
And that's a 9 month program.
Yeah, it's really a can of worms
That's
once
that's
it's
a nine
opened.
that's nine
Yeah.
months right there. Just that those three aspects. It's 3 months apiece. 3 months to make sure
Mm-hmm.
they're living in sobriety. Another 3 months to help them grow into a lifelong recovery, and then the
Mm-hmm.
third 3 months understanding how it happened so that it doesn't happen again. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
neuroscience.
Yeah.
I see.
Over here in our
Uh,
part of the world, I think there are a lot of marriages that they're together, but they're only staying together for the sake of the children. Like because of this kind of behavior, mostly from the man's side. Although I'm not saying that women don't do that, but mostly it's from the man's side.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so when this happens, the wife, as you said, gets so traumatized. They decided that they've fallen out of love for each other, but they remain together for the sake of the kids because they're still small. And at the same time, for tax
Mhm.
purposes, for cost of living, also societal shame, because in Asian cultures, it's doesn't look good, right? If you go through a divorce, I mean, for any culture, but especially for Asians, it hits hard, like you've failed, and so a lot of couples stay together just for the sake of all of that. But then, inside, they've fallen out of love for each other a long time ago. And that's very rampant here. And you know, divorce rates in this part of the world has gone way up. And because of seeing their parents go through that, a lot of people nowadays, now that they have their own partners in life, they don't want to get married, or if they do get married, they don't want to have kids anymore because they just don't see how it can work because of all the failures of the past. Yeah, so that's a situation over here in Asia.
Yeah, I think in Asia also there's a lot of for me I thought there was a lot of like establishments for men
Oh yeah, there are tons. Yeah,
to do these
all
type
the
of
hanky panky
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
hanky
sure.
panky stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah,
and then it's yeah, they call and then they just call it that's the price of doing business because you
right.
don't go
Yeah,
into a business that's like their business meeting. That's like their conference room actually, these hanky panky
yeah,
places,
yeah.
like so and then it's like common for businessmen or just people taking their clients
That's
there and
right.
then
It's part of the culture. Yeah,
yeah. Women don't think much of it or they just brush it aside because, oh, it's just their husband going to work or whatnot, so that's it, but there's so much, I feel like in Asia, like in America, like, okay, we're doing an office, we're doing a conference room, right? Uh, we don't really take the business to like the hanky panky places like a strip club,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, yeah. We joke about that, but in Asia, it really feels it is like that. It's like, oh, you do business, you go, you take them out to the drinks and the hanky panky places, and then you seal the deal.
Yeah, I also think that a lot of the wives don't want to admit it. They try to convince themselves that it's all right, that it's just how business is done here. But I think deep down inside, they're broken because of that. They
Right.
they,
Yeah.
they don't like that, but they don't want to be the one who seems to, speak up. So if the deal doesn't happen, they get blamed for it, right? And because everybody has the stress of living, making money, supporting the family, and she doesn't want to be the one who gets blamed if it doesn't happen. But deep down inside, I know that it probably kills them.
It's absolutely a killer. And when there is no, when the man doesn't take ownership and deal with it, the wife suffers in silence.
Yeah.
And that doesn't need to be the case.
Hmm.
And it's not going to happen without somebody to walk alongside the man
Yeah.
because shame keeps the man living in secrecy.
Mm.
It
Yes.
listen, if willpower were enough, white knuckling would work, and it doesn't.
No, no, it
If
doesn't. Yeah.
self-control were enough, promises would hold fast.
Hmm.
If intelligence or faith were enough, we wouldn't be here.
Right, right.
Guys need to be willing to say, I can't control this and get help.
Hmm. Right.
And help isn't weakness, help is humility, help is wisdom.
Hmm.
Help is the moment a man decides that his life is worth fighting for.
Right.
Everything he's built. And sometimes you can't save it. I lost my ministry because of it.
Hmm.
I had a good thing going and I lost it, quite frankly.
Right, right. I
Um,
think this is one of the hardest ones to overcome too, because what are the deadly sins? So there's lust and there's gluttony, there's greed, et cetera, et cetera. But I think lust really is the one that seems very insidious. Like it creeps up on you. It's self-reinforcing. Once you fall into it, it's a slippery slope. And unlike the other ones, this one seems very hard to get over, especially in our day and age where it's so rampant. It's just everywhere, right? Almost
Yeah.
almost being made to look as if it's not a big deal. And in fact, if you try to address it, you seem to be the quote unquote uncool one for
Right.
for not
What it
engaging in
was,
those kind of
Yeah.
activities. Yeah.
You could bend the rules for. I feel this one is the one where you could bend the rules the most, right?
That's
Because
why
you
it's
could say,
dangerous, right, Reynolds?
yeah, right.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
could,
yeah.
yeah. All the other ones, you could sort of, it's less bendable. Like, right,
Right.
you could say, oh, I'm just looking at a picture. What's the harm
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that, right? And it's like,
Right. That's why,
like
yeah.
even
Good point.
the right, even the thing where you said it's in the head. Like, okay, I'm thinking about drinking, but I didn't drink. That's okay. But here on this, if you actually think about the image, right,
it's
you're
there.
actually playing.
It's
You're
there.
playing into it already, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the Bible talks about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and pride of life. And those three go hand in hand with this.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. And the challenge is you are fighting a war to break the hold that lust and pride have on
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
And it's a war that you're fighting in silence and in secret,
Mhm.
and you can't win that way.
Right, right. So how do you win then, Chris? What do you recommend to men who
So,
are suffering from this?
um, biggest issue for most guys is they don't know where to go.
Hmm.
Okay. I've got a website. It's called proclaimliberty.org. The resources page has tons of free resources, tons of videos, tons
Hmm.
of reading material. But the truth of the matter is, you know, you talk about, I look at it from a biblical perspective.
Hmm.
David committed adultery with Bathsheba.
Hmm.
It led him all the way up to murder. And he was willing to live with that until somebody looked at him, until Nathan the prophet looked at him and said, "Thou art the man."
Hmm.
And he had to take ownership and had to take responsibility and had to deal with it. And Nathan walked with him through that.
Hmm.
Okay. So much so that later, when he and Bathsheba were married and they had children, David named one of his sons with Bathsheba after Nathan the prophet.
Hmm. Okay.
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 So there needs to be a willingness to let somebody come alongside you and help.
Right, right.
Um, I work with individuals, I work with groups.
Hmm.
And I working with individuals is good. Working with groups is also good because now you're in a group with other guys who are struggling not like you're struggling, and you can, I want to use the term commiserate, but that's not really a good word. You can
Hmm.
understand where each other's coming from
Hmm.
because you've all been there, and then you can encourage one another along the way. That being said, the most intense is individual one-on-one.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and dealing with your challenges at your pace,
Hmm.
which isn't always possible in a group setting. The
Hmm.
group
Yeah.
setting is good because now you've got not one person walking alongside of you, but multiple people walking alongside of you. And there's
Hmm.
power in that and there's strength in that.
Right, right.
But if you
Well,
don't have somebody who's walking alongside you, you're in a lot of trouble.
Chris, what would you
You
say to people who might say that maybe this type of behavior is just a symptom of or a manifestation of something that's deeper within that person, like a real need that's not addressed. There's like an
Absolutely.
underlying issue that's at play here, and all the sex addiction, the pornography, maybe it's just the symptoms of this underlying issue. What would you say to that?
Absolutely true. I agree with that on every aspect of it. They have therapists. They're called CSAT, CSAT, Certified Sex Addiction Therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And part of their job is digging out that underlying issue. And they're
Mm-hmm.
good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I know that. Okay. They're
Mm-hmm.
good at what they do. And they'll go backwards and they'll dig it out. And
Mm-hmm.
that'll help you to move forward.
Right.
I don't really mess with that. I'm not trained to mess with that. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
refer somebody out for that.
I
Mm-hmm.
see.
I
Okay.
start with where the guy is at today.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And let's talk about how to get you out of where you're at and on a better pathway.
Mm,
See.
right, right.
Okay.
It begins with a willingness to undergo behavioral modification
Mm,
and works through spiritual transformation.
mm,
Because the
right,
first issue is you got to stop what you're doing. But the greater issue is you've got to transform your life. So that's not what you're looking for anymore.
right, right. I think that's the core issue here, right? Whatever it is, the lack that this person is trying to fill up, that void that they're trying to fill up, must be found so that the behavior modification can change, right? The
Right.
change comes from within,
Yes.
right,
The change has to come in from within.
right.
And it it's real, and sometimes it's dramatic, and sometimes it's just a slow, oh yeah, oh, I get that. Oh yeah, I get
Hmm.
that. Next thing's a
Right,
little bigger. Oh yeah, I get that. And
right.
oh yeah, I get that. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's that. It's slow. For me, it was all of a sudden the growth out of the addiction was the
Mhm.
slow,
Right. The baby steps,
one step at a
right?
time, the baby steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The baby
But
steps will lead to the aha moments, right?
the real spiritual transformation that allowed me to re-engage with my wife and really set me free was a big aha moment.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Basically, I feel like I was upside down walking backwards. God threw me up in the air, caught me, shook me up, and said, "What are you, stupid?" And then
Right.
set me down and facing the right direction, set me down
Mm.
on my feet facing the right direction. And
Right,
that
right.
was an aha moment for me when I realized, oh, yeah, I got to take care of
Mm.
this. But
Right.
the growth out of it took a lot of time,
Right.
took a lot of time to reach a point where I didn't feel, I knew it was wrong. I had stopped the behavior, but there were
Mm.
still a lot of feelings and emotions that were very, very negative.
Hmm.
Okay.
Right.
And I had to figure out how to live in recovery while controlling those emotions. And that's why it's not just the behavior modification, it's living with it.
Right, right,
That's the second and third part of the program.
right. Because if it could happen to a great man like David, it can happen to any of us,
Oh,
right? I
yeah.
mean,
True.
this is David we're talking about.
Mhm.
He's a great man. He's accomplished so much. He's a man of God, but even he could fall. So if he
Yeah.
could fall, any one of us can fall. So I think
Yeah.
if I have to take away from what you've said so far, is that number one, you have to be willing to open up. But number two, that support group, whether it's a one man support group or a community support group, is very important. If you have that community who that can lead and walk beside you, that's how you get out of that addiction, right?
Yes. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I meet with my core group once a week, and I will talk to some of the guys throughout the week as well. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
a once a week. These are guys that I developed a relationship with
Mm-hmm.
2+ years ago, and I would not have been able to make it through some of the things that I went through, I needed
Mm-hmm.
to go through and
Right.
went through to claim my liberty. If it
Mm.
had not been for these guys that I could call up and say, I'm just dealing with it.
Right, right, right. So yeah,
Uh,
the community, the support group, that's so important. I think all men need to have more good friends in life. I think that's one of the other issues that we talked about in some of our other podcasts is that one of the epidemics of being a man in the modern world is that a lot of us are lonely because we don't
Yeah.
really understand how to reach out and be part of a community, especially when we're suffering. We still don't know how to open up. So I think it's so important to find some way to have that, brotherhood of guys who can help each other along and kind of like remind each other if you're slipping, right? Like, hey, bro, like, this is clearly not good for you. This is what's happening, and then kind of like pull you along, the straight and narrow, right?
Do
So
some wholesome activities. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
top in the um top 10 things that men struggle with, and I'm working on this for a book.
Mm.
um the top 10, the number one is identity and purpose,
Mm,
and loneliness is number 6 on the list.
mm, mm,
Okay.
mm,
So you're not wrong when you say, generally speaking,
Mm.
that friendship, that lack of community does impact a guy.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we live in a transient society. Okay.
Right. Right.
My best friend from grade school, I don't even know where he is today.
Right.
My
Exactly.
best friend from high school, I don't know where he is today
Or he's so
because
far
I've
away.
moved
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
far away. And even though it's very possible that we might connect online one day,
Right.
it still makes a struggle. My
Yeah.
best friends today are the guys in my group. They are my
Mm,
community.
right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm not really struggling. I just pick up the phone and I call and say, how you doing? Let's chat.
Right.
What's going
Yeah.
on in
Yeah.
life, you know?
Right.
Because there is that need for community that men have been, by tradition, taught they don't need to foster.
Mm, mm,
Okay.
right.
Men are taught they don't need to worry about emotions. And generally speaking, the only emotion they learn is anger.
Mm,
And they don't, that you're a man up, you can do this. And they
mm,
don't need community. And neither one of those things is accurate.
right.
I mean, if man didn't need community, why did God create Adam and Eve?
Mm,
Man needed relationship.
right. We need other people.
Right.
We need other people.
Mhm.
Paul was it Paul Simon wrote a song a long time ago. It might have been Simon and Garfunkel at that point. I
Mm,
am a rock. I am an island. That's not a
mm,
true statement,
mm,
because when the earthquake comes, the rock caves in.
mm. Yeah, God knows that. I wish I had like more close friends that I can hang out with and go out with. Like you said, it's so transient nowadays. Like a lot of my friends are in other countries, and then
Right.
it's nice that with technology you can keep in touch and call each other, but still not the same when they're physically present. Like you can go
Right.
look
Yeah.
for it. Right? That still feels better. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's a
I think
different
it's
Um,
feeling.
important to have that. Right.
Right.
you know, when I was living in Iowa, part of my own recovery, I literally moved to Iowa to be a part of a ministry there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pastor who's dealt with spiritual warfare for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my friend, and I knew he could help me. So I went because I knew he could help me. And
Mm-hmm.
while I was there, every Tuesday night, a few guys, we went to Perkins restaurant, coffee and
Mm,
pie, you know? And
mhm.
that made a difference.
Yeah.
It made a huge difference. So
Yeah.
that community, that sense of community is important.
So Reynolds, it's like replacing all these unhealthy affairs with wholesome fun, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, like bowling nights or
Yeah.
like watching a ball game with the guys and then
Right.
do some sports. You guys get to hang
Right. Or
out.
eating pie, like he was saying. I
Yeah,
like
I
pie.
think that's a
I like
better,
pie. Yeah.
exactly, better alternative than doing all these unhealthy activities. Because here, like from my own experience, like I used to work for a Japanese company, and it's part of the culture that whenever we would have, colleagues from Japan come over for business trips, that you'd have to entertain them. Like you take them out for dinners, and sometimes after that, they wanted to go to well, not necessarily a hanky panky place, but a karaoke club or like a KTV, and then
Right. Yeah.
places like that. Obviously, it can get shady, but not all the time. But the temptation is there, right? You would
Yeah.
have, girls who would drink with you, and when alcohol's involved and it's getting late, and you're on a business trip, you feel like you have a license to fool around. All sorts of things can happen. So, like in my own life, I saw that. Um, if especially if it's part of the culture, you have to be very careful about it. Um, the most successful men that I've seen straddle the line between these two worlds are those who seem to have a good relationship with themselves and with their spouse. So like when they go out on boys' night outs like these, they drink, they have fun, they sing a couple of songs, uh, but they don't feel the need to do anything more than that. And the ones that I notice who usually take the bait are those who, like we said earlier, have something lacking in their own lives. They're trying to fill up the void somewhere. So I really think that's the key issue for that. If you're healthy to begin with, mentally, spiritually, then you generally don't need that.
Yeah, yeah, I can
Yes.
relate to those
Yeah.
stories too. Yeah, even as a younger kid, like I think we need to say something for the younger generations. For when I was younger, running around, I was lonely too. Never could really get a date. So when there's kids, or when I was in my 20s, people wanted to go clubbing, right? So like, okay, yeah, I'll go. Why? Because there's drinks and there's girls, and we wanted to
Mhm.
go drink and pick up girls, and then
Right, right.
when I be and then when I was successful once with that, I was like, oh, I want this feeling all the time. I want to go out every night, and then I did, and then for a while I was doing that every night. And luckily, I was living in Taiwan at that time too, so it was easy for me to go out every night and try to
Hmm.
accomplish this and get this stuff. But at the end, like you're saying, like I just felt empty. Like I just needed, like I
Yeah,
can't get fulfilled.
exactly.
I was just like
Yeah.
I just needed it every night. It's like like it related to addictions. Like, oh yeah, I need that drink. I need to pick up a girl tonight. I need that
Hmm.
all over again. But it just happened last
Yeah.
night. But I need it again right like today. Like
Right.
So,
So
Yeah.
that's the ritual. You get into it and
mm-hmm,
then you go ahead and you act out.
mm-hmm,
And then the feeling after that is emptiness and despair. You voiced it
Yeah. Yeah.
perfectly.
mm-hmm,
And that leads to the, okay, I need to do this again tonight feeling.
right. Yep.
Right.
And before you know it, you're living in it and you
Mm-hmm,
don't know how to break free.
Right.
And you end up juggling career, family, faith, relationships, and the strain just grows
Mm.
mm-hmm.
into something that becomes unmanageable.
It's like a trap, isn't it, guys? It's like a mirage. That's the
Yeah.
closest analogy I can come up with. It's like a mirage. It's like it's there. You can see it. You can almost touch it, but every time you chase after it, when you finally get there, it
Mm-hmm.
disappears. So, like in Reynolds' case, like we've all gone through that, especially living here in Taiwan. I know what that's all about. So, in fact, you would think to yourself, like, oh, maybe if I do something different tonight, perhaps I won't feel this empty afterwards. So you're constantly thinking, if I fine tune this, if I fine tune that, maybe I would have a different outcome. But I find that it never has that kind of outcome that you want because, first of all, that whatever thrill you get from that is very fleeting and it goes away, come the morning light, right? And then in fact, you just feel more despair and you feel more empty inside the more you do this for some reason, right? And then you realize at some point that, oh, this doesn't bring you real happiness. Real happiness, in fact, might just be like breakfast with people that you like, your friends, your family, or a steady girlfriend or your spouse. Like what I mean? It's like the little
Yeah.
things are the things that actually bring you more meaning and true lasting happiness. And these temporary distractions, they're fun when it's happening, but then when they're over, you just feel like, oh, what the heck am I doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Um, and wait, what the heck am I doing? And why? Why did I do
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
this?
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
This goes against everything I believe in.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
next day, you're
Yes.
back in the same boat.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yes,
Oh,
that sounds
right. Not
familiar
to
too.
mention the spending. Gosh, it's like it takes
Oh
a
yeah,
hit
I
on your
know.
wallet, right? God, it just
Right.
spends so much money.
That's the
Uh,
why again. Oh, why did I do this? Look at this bill, and then you go
Yeah,
do
that's
it
the Asian
again.
part of me coming out. Like, why am I spending all this money for this? Like, what am I doing here?
so I had somebody say to me today, this isn't a ministry. You're charging money for this. And when it comes down to it, I'm actually saving people's money
Oh
because
yeah.
what they spent, I mean, you're going out a couple, 3 nights a week. You're spending twice to 3 times what you'd spend on for a coaching session with me.
Oh, right.
Okay. Um, and you've got you don't tell me you don't have the money. You can redirect resources.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
can
There you
spend
go.
money,
You can
like having
and
affairs
Redirect
and watching
resources. I like
pornography,
that.
you have money
right.
for
So and
therapy.
how much and wait. What's the divorce gonna cost you?
Oh, there
Right.
What's
we
it going to
go.
cost you when your wife throws you under the bus and
Yeah.
wants a
Mhm.
divorce because of your virtual adultery or your acting out?
Oh
Or
man.
so there's a cost one way or the other.
Right. The
Yes.
And
judge
people say,
favors
"Oh,
the women when it comes to adultery, I
yeah,
believe, right?
yeah, oh, I can't pay that cost." Yeah, you can. You're going to pay for it one way or another. You
Uh,
can pay for it now with a coach like me and get healthy. Okay.
uh-huh.
Or you're going to pay for it later and still be living a devastated life.
Right.
Right.
So, what do you want to do? It's
There
not a
we go.
question of if you're going to pay, it's a question
Right.
of where you're going to pay.
Right.
Right.
And guys don't want to deal with that. They think it's too much, but they don't consider the back end cost, which is
Mm,
a ruined life,
right.
divorce,
And nobody wants
devastation.
that.
And
No, Chris, I'm just glad
nobody
that there are
wants that.
people like you in the world who help men deal with issues like these. Because, like I said at
Yeah.
the beginning of the podcast, like this is not talked about enough. There seems
Yeah.
to be some kind of shame or taboo when it comes to this, or like in fact, if I have to put it very crudely, other guys would say, "Oh, you're not man enough. Why is this even bothering you?" Like, yeah, you should score and get as many babes as you can. That seems to be the
Yeah.
mentality for a lot of men out there, right? But then, people who've actually gone through this cycle knows that it's a waste of money. It wrecks your life. It wrecks your marriage. Hurts your children. You're financially hit. All aspects of your life start sliding down.
Wait,
This
wait,
is
wait, wait, wait.
most men don't understand.
What about the guy who hooks up with a prostitute on a business trip and comes home with a sexually transmitted
That's
disease?
another thing, right? That's
Oh,
another thing.
right.
Boom. Boy, did
Yeah,
he just blow up his life.
yeah.
Right.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
that's so devastating for a
Now
man.
there's no hiding it.
Yeah,
Right. There's no
gosh,
coming back
yeah.
from that.
Right, right, right.
Oh
And
man.
does that happen? Yes, it does.
Mhm.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
So the cost can be unimaginable. You
yeah.
know, and a guy's going to pay me an amount of money for one of my coaching programs, and he's can avoid all that if he wants to come clean up front, or he can continue to try and juggle it and end up in deeper manure than he's in today.
Oh,
Yeah, the STD part is something we haven't even really begun to scratch the surface of. Oh God, imagine if that happens to you and suddenly number one, you can't hide it anymore. Number
right.
two, imagine having to go through the doctor's appointments and all the treatments and
Mhm.
maybe some the harsher STDs would affect you for the rest of your life, et cetera, et cetera. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, there's just so many things that would just come down on you
So,
once you dig
yeah,
yourself into this hole, right?
earlier I mentioned betrayal trauma. So you
Yeah.
come home, you have sex with your wife. Now
Mhm.
you've given her the STD. You
Mm.
Oh.
want to talk about doubling down on that betrayal trauma?
Oh.
Mm.
Boom. Now you've exploded. Now you're talking a nuclear explosion, not just an explosion.
Well, as a
Right.
sidebar, I just read that with the release of the Epstein files, right? Like Bill Gates is in hot water because of that, right? He
Oh, he's on
apparently,
fire.
well, allegedly asked Epstein for antibiotics to slip into his wife's food or something because he contracted an STD from all these women that he's sleeping with in the Epstein Island, and now he's given it to his wife. And of course, we know what happened afterwards, that he and his wife divorced. So like, this is this is like it happens to every guy who, falls into this kind of thing,
There is
right?
no level of society that this cannot touch.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. From the
So
My
rich
long
to the
as we're
program, my
poor,
human.
right?
program is, yeah, my program is a faith-based program. I
Mm.
use a lot of Bible and biblical principles,
Mm, mm,
Mhm.
and start with the first lesson is on, you've been denying that you have a problem. Let's get over that.
right.
Okay.
Right.
And we go and we grow from there. And like I said, at the minimum, you're looking at 9 months worth of stuff.
That's great
And
because you have science and you have scripture
Mhm.
both at the same
yes,
time. Yeah. I
yes,
think
yeah.
that's what I like
Very
about the
good.
program that you have. I think it's most of the time it's either one or the other, but in your case you combine both of them. That's great.
Well, it is science. I use a lot of work from, the founder of this whole principle for treating men was
Mm,
really Patrick Carnes.
mm,
And I was 6 weeks at Patrick Carnes' sex camp,
mhm,
okay, to
mhm,
help get over this, and
mm,
took away a lot that was
mm.
very, very productive for me,
Right.
and then kept going with another program that I paid for
Mhm,
after that,
mhm.
18 months,
Right.
okay, that I paid for after that, and then went with another coach. And the first coach who helped me pastored he was the senior pastor at a mega church of 10,000 people out
Mm,
west,
mm.
way west.
Right.
Okay. And he lost everything
Mm,
and had to go through and reclaim and rebuild.
mm,
And he spent a lot of time, he spent a lot of time with me. His wife spent time with my wife.
mm,
And there was an understanding
mm,
in all of me getting treated that God was preparing me to
mm.
help men who were struggling.
The higher calling. Yeah.
So God put me in this position, and I really, uh, listen, I'm nothing. I'm a nobody who went through the pits of despair and
Mhm,
the pits
mhm,
of sin. And
mm,
God lifted me out of that and
mm,
gave me a desire to take that negativity experience and turn it into something that could help guys get clean,
mm.
that could save guys before they screwed up their marriages.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not, listen, that's not me. If it were in my power and my strength, there's no way. Because I'm
Right.
not that smart and I'm not that good. Okay.
I don't
But
think so, Chris.
frank, frankly, there's a God I trust who says,
Mm.
yeah, this is the path you're on. I'm going to bring people your way and you're going to be able to help them.
That's great.
Very good.
And so, God, what if I start to struggle with it again? He says, you have people that I've placed in your path, and my grace is sufficient for you.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And so that's the premise I work under. I'm nothing, but God is everything.
Right.
And everything that's happened to me has been so hurtful and so devastating.
Hmm.
What I did, what I did to my wife is a killer.
Right.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Mm,
But
Yeah.
for God,
hmm,
who's brought me out of it,
mm,
set me upright, set me on a clean path where I can walk in righteousness,
mm,
and has begun the long journey of fully restoring my relationship with my wife.
Right.
And by the way, that's why I don't teach on restoration of marriage, because I'm not there yet.
Mm.
Okay. I'm not going to, I'm not going to teach on something I don't have the experience and the wherewithal to
Mhm.
deal with.
Right.
That
Mhm.
wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be
Mhm.
smart. It wouldn't be fair.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to teach on that, but I can help guys and give guys
Right.
an outlet when it comes to living in God, living in integrity before God and man.
Yes.
It's a good thing you're around, Chris. You know, it reminds me of the C.S. Lewis. I don't know if you guys read any of the Narnia books,
All
but
of them, multiple times.
Chris, remember when Aslan the lion dug his claws into what's the younger brother's name? There's Peter and there's
Edmund.
Edmund, right? And you know that transformation, you know, stripping away um, the 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 crass and vulgar side of him.
Right.
Uh, but that could only happen when the divine steps in and sets you
Correct.
right. There's at some point you can only do so much for yourself, and a higher power has to come in and help you along. And I think this is what's powerful about what you're doing is you acknowledge that.
Yes. The divine, I can tell you the divine has stepped into my life.
Mm,
And apart from that, I don't feel like I could do this.
mm,
Um, I have a phrase that somebody pointed out to me that's on my website that says, it's time to trust in yourself.
mm,
And that's not really a good phrase. And I have to go back in and change it because
mm,
it's not time to trust in yourself. It's time to trust in something greater than yourself.
Yeah,
Because the only way you get out of it is by trusting in something greater than yourself, bigger
right.
than yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Remember the claws of Aslan as it shredded into Edmund? It literally felt like he was being stripped away to his very core. You know,
Right.
that image is so powerful because all the layers upon layers of stuff that you don't need anymore that but have accumulated over the years in your life, only a divine higher power can strip that away. You don't need that anymore. So that
Correct.
the real you, the core, the beautiful you can come out, right? And I think it's just that image reminds me so much of what we're talking about right now.
And I like that. The beautiful you.
Mm,
There is a beautiful you. The
mhm,
Bible declares that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, that we are, you are, I am, we are a marvelous work of God.
mm,
And God would have it that that marvelous work of His would
mm.
come to the surface and shine forth.
Right. But before that came forth, remember the claws.
Right. And
So
that's what we're doing. We're taking
exactly.
those claws and we're going to
Yeah.
peel all
It-
that
there's
away.
pain first before that comes out, but
Yeah.
then it's a
Yes.
necessary pain, right?
And
Right.
and the pain is real. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't make any, there's no pretending.
Yeah.
This is going to be a painful experience
Right.
because not only do you have to come to grips with yourself, which is hard enough,
Hmm.
you also have to come to grips with the hurt that you've caused
Cost other
as a
people.
result
Right.
of
Yeah.
what you have done.
Right.
So you're doubly pained, and your wife is pained on a multiplicity of levels that
Hmm.
you can't even begin to comprehend when you're caught up in this.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I'm 2.5 years in.
Hmm.
My wife and I have been apart for uh, um, not quite 3 years. We
Hmm.
just got back together in after Thanksgiving
Oh,
week. We
that's
just got
great,
back
Chris.
together
I'm
Thanksgiving
happy
week.
to hear that.
Okay. And I am just beginning to understand the
Mm,
depth of the pain that I caused my wife.
mm.
And
I'm glad to hear that.
guys, I weep over that.
Yeah, for sure. For
I
sure.
weep over that. And really, until guys get that, it doesn't, there's not a full comprehension as to the consequences. Oh, yeah, my wife's
Oh
mad
yeah.
at me. Well, yeah, your wife's mad at you. Do you know why?
Hmm.
Well, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, there's
That's a good
no,
home.
you don't feel it in your soul.
Mhm.
Chris, I bet you saw that and felt in your soul when you looked into her eyes and you saw the amount of pain that was there.
And that pain is real. And
Mm.
yes, you can see it in her
Yeah.
eyes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I said to her this morning, she's got a lot going on her job, and
Mm.
her stress is through the roof. And she said something this morning, and I said, I feel your stress.
Mm.
And previously, I would have said, what's your problem? You've got it all scheduled. You can do this.
Mm.
But there's got to be something deeper. You've got to be able to feel it.
Mm.
And that doesn't come until you're deep in recovery. And that's why, I'm not there on teaching reconciliation for marriage yet. I'm still too busy working on mine, and I have to pour myself into my marriage.
But still, Chris,
And
you're going through a metamorphosis. So
I
like that.
want to pour myself into my marriage. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, there's no desire on my part to go back to the behavior that I was exhibiting.
Right.
That's
Right.
done. I don't
Good.
I
Right.
don't even want to go near it.
Right.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
So did I get out of that? Yes. Did
Mm.
God help me get out of that? Yes. How did he do that? Well, he brought a bunch of people into my life,
Mm.
and each one has contributed along the way.
Mm.
And 3 or 4 of them are still there walking through it with me,
Yeah. Right.
and I'm walking through it with them. And all of us are well into, a
Right.
couple years into recovery and
It's a
living in
brotherhood.
recovery.
It's a brotherhood.
It is.
Yeah.
And we want to, the other guys, they know, and they know that they're not necessarily they need to live in their own recovery, but they don't
Mm.
feel the same, I'll use the word calling, to
Mm.
help others that I have.
Oh, well, we
The desire within me to help other men burns.
right.
Jeremiah in scripture says the word burned within him and he couldn't keep silent. Well,
Mm.
this is all about God working in me, and I
Hmm.
cannot keep silent.
Right. Wow.
Good.
Wow. That's beautiful. I
Yep.
think you've really been touched, and then that ignited that
Found that
fire
calling.
in you. Yeah, the calling.
Mhm.
That's great. Usually at this point in our show, we usually ask our guests if they have any words of wisdom that you would like to leave with our listeners and kind of tie it all together for tonight.
So,
Yeah,
yep.
exactly.
If you
Take
go to Proclaim Liberty,
Mhm.
PROCLAIMLIBERTY.US/apply.
Mm.
That
perfect.
will bring them to a page that explains, that goes through a whole bunch of the feelings
Mm.
and
Oh, nice.
offers them the opportunity to apply for one of my coaching programs.
Mm. I see. Okay.
So it'll walk them through. It's just a page that says, here's what you're dealing with. Da 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 da. I get it. Been there. And
Mm.
just click the link and apply. Don't
Right.
wait for the devastation to get any worse.
Mm.
Get started now. If you go to proclaimliberty.org and go to scroll down, there's a resource called, it's free. It's called The Recovery Mindset. And
Mm.
it's a free 20-page book that they can download and
Mhm.
go through, that will help them determine in their own brain if they're ready to enter recovery.
Mm.
Again, proclaimliberty.org, the resource page. There's a whole bunch of videos there. There's videos by a guy named Jake Porter that deal a lot with what your wife is feeling, what the wife is
Mm.
feeling.
Mm. Mm. Right.
There's other videos that deal with, what it takes. My Instagram, if they go to Life Coach Chris on Instagram, I've got a couple dozen videos out there on getting stuff right.
Mm.
Mhm.
Wow,
So
a lot of resources. Thank you for
I've
sharing
put,
all that. Yeah.
I've put a lot of stuff out there
Yeah.
for free, but
Mm.
ultimately to break free, there's a cost.
Mm.
And they
Right.
can they can apply, and they can go to that application, they can apply. And what that will do is I will contact them and schedule a clarity call.
Mm.
Is the term I use. It's more like a strategy session. What do you need, and what are we going to do to help you?
Right.
Mm.
Okay.
And that proclaimliberty.us /apply is the fastest way to get in touch and get a contact that says, let's take the next step. And everything I do is confidential.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't talk about the names of my clients on the air.
Mm.
I've got I've got a handful of openings now.
Mm.
I can probably squeeze about 10 people into my schedule. And that may not seem like a lot, but to the ones who get in, prayerfully, it's going to be a lot.
So for all you Asian uncles out there who need
Um,
this kind of
Some,
help in your life, you know
yeah.
where to go now.
Right.
Right. How
Exactly.
about you, Reynold? Do you have any words of wisdom for us today?
Uh, Not much. I think Chris summed it up. Yeah. I think just make good choices, I guess. Get help if you need it, but make good choices.
Well, for
yeah.
me, I feel that my key takeaway from today is you got to have a community of brothers. You know,
Yes.
we're all human, and we live in a community. We all need to help each other along. You know, people that you can trust. You know, we all falter from time to time, but it's important to help pick each other up so we can all move forward together.
Yes.
If they want a greater idea, they can look up, they can go to Amazon and buy my book. It's called Proclaim Liberty,
Okay.
obviously.
Okay,
So,
great. Well,
and
Okay.
yeah,
they can get the
Nice.
book. That tells a portion of my story and
Okay.
incorporates a lot of the stuff that I've learned along the way to give them an idea of what it's going to take to find that
I
liberty.
see.
Nice.
Great stuff. Well, Chris,
Love
thank you
that.
so much for coming on to our
Yes.
show today and
Thank you,
pouring your heart
Chris.
out,
Yes.
sharing, just candidly sharing your life experience with the listeners. I'm sure a lot of people will be helped by our conversation today. So,
Yeah.
Reynold, how do we tie this up?
Oh yeah. Thank you again, Chris. Yes, definitely love their sharing. Love all the resources that you're providing to everyone. Let me end the show by thanking Chris again, thanking our audience for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Of course, sharing is caring, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, Chris.